And we are live, Ray and Ray, alongside the good doctor herself, Dr. Ellen Wald, Energy Week podcast show, etc. Dr. Wald, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and my teeth look so nice and shiny clean since I was at the dentist.
You're talking about that, and I got thinking, I don't remember the last time I went. It's been has to be pre-COVID, which is now a year and a half ago. So 2019, 2018. It's been a long time since I've been the dentist. I remember when you used to try to go when you were a kid, like every 6 months or whatever it is they recommend, and I've kind of given. I can tell you, I went. I think about it. 'Cause I remember we were at the doctor or something else. I had a toothache. I went to go get it looked at. So whenever that was, that's been God. It's been a long time ago. Dentist is it still a thing? Like,
I really am not convinced that like you have to go to the dentist every 6 months. I'm sure like dentists everywhere are going to be like calling us, being like, no, you have to. I'm not convinced that is like a necessity. I mean, maybe when you're a kid and you're like losing teeth or whatever, or I don't know, or you're just like don't have good teeth hygiene when you're a kid. But like, I think a floss, a brush, like if you don't have big problems, I don't know.
I remember my dad always would ask questions like at the house. He'd be like, "Okay, if brushing is what solves everything, then why do we floss?"
I think it's actually flossing is actually like better than brushing.
Well, that was his joke because like,
Oh,
they'd have this whole thing about brushing, but then the cavity would be here, and he would just go. He'd always come back and be like, "Okay, well, hold on. If this was the big thing, then why are we doing this? And why is it this way anyway?" So I always got a kick out of that. Okay.
So funny story. So when I was a kid and I had to go to the dentist, we had to get fluoride treatments because the county where I grew up did not put fluoride in the water because apparently they actually believed that it was a like communist mind control plot, just like the plot of Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, it is. So
Anyway,
that's hilarious. That's
yeah.
hilarious. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into the normally scheduled
Yes.
programming. Okay. Oil falls and biggest weekly decline in months on demand worries. Okay. So here we are now. Just when you're convincing me that the oil prices are here to stay, they start to fall. I'm a slow adopter to these prices. But I was reading this morning, and I think we have a story about it here in a minute. About Aramco's profits, but you know, when you take Scott Sheffield, he said that he expects the Permian to only grow at 5% over the next few years. It feels like that we're. If you took 2020 out of the equation, and I just told you we're going to be in a situation to where U.S. production's at this level, demand is going to look like it does because there's a virus out there. And I kind of gave you the highlights. Would you have guessed that we could have managed the price as well as we have? Yeah, we've done a pretty
Yeah.
good job, all things considered.
I mean, yeah, if you take 2020 out of the equation, like, hey, it looks great. People should do that. They should just be like, we're just going to remove this year from our charts.
But I mean, if you just said this is what the oil market is going to face. International travel is going to be down. U.S. production is going to be off. OPEC's going to meet monthly. There's a pandemic going around the world, and you have varying levels of stuff going on. I think most forecasters would have predicted wild swings in the market, but we've really not had any wild. Listen, I know the traders don't maybe want to talk about the $10 move as a wild swing, but from what production moves off of, we haven't had any wild swings.
It's interesting because I was really like last summer, oil was so incredibly stable. I mean, I know the prices were lower than people would wanted, but like it was extremely stable. And it's just kind of like so I thought that was an interesting like facet of how stable it is. I think now it's much less stable, but it's interesting because like if you look at these articles, like they all have these different reasons for why prices are going down. So we've got prices were down last week, I think the most they've been in months, and then it fell 3% today. Now they're saying rising US dollar, concerns that new coronavirus related, restrictions in Asia, especially China, could slow recovery in fuel demand. I don't think it's just the issue of more restrictions in Asia, because I think even before they started putting more restrictions in China. We started seeing, stuff happening in China. We saw like Chinese demand was kind of not so great. Like it was kind of flat in June, and there are definitely concerns about it going forward. So I don't think it's just coronavirus. I think it's like a Chinese economy issue. And but it's also interesting because, okay, so it says Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley all cut their China growth forecast on Monday. So does that mean now that soon they're going to cut their oil forecasts? Because remember, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs were all like $80 oil, $80 oil is coming. It's definitely coming. If not in Q3, then definitely in Q4. And I tweeted that this morning, and someone got super mad at me. He was like, well, what's your, I said, Howard Goldman and JP Morgan's $80 oil calls looking now? I was like, well, they still have 5 months to get it right, because anything can happen in 5 months. And someone responded to me, Goldman call / forecast was early and right so far. Tell me your forecast. You missed it totally, as I recollect. So I don't make forecasts. So I was just like, I don't make forecasts. They're always wrong. He's like, so you shouldn't make fun of forecasters. They're like, the Goldman team is the best. Are they really the best? They're always like, all the forecasters are wrong. So it's not like I'm saying I need them to like, eat crow or whatever, but are we, do you think that this $80 call is under threat now?
So first off, I don't think I've ever gotten you to make but maybe one prediction on the podcast. So
yeah,
you don't follow. I'm always trying to get her to make predictions. So I will take your back there. As for the $80 call, going into the winter, could we get up to 80? Possibly. I mean,
well, we've got OPEC supposed to increase production by 400,000 barrels a day per month between now and then. So we're going to get more OPEC oil. Like, is demand going to keep up? Is this the best, we've got?
I don't know. I mean, listen, I didn't think oil would be where it is so quick, so fast. So I'm kind of a little gun shy to say that this is that we're not going to see prices climb. I think prices will stay in the range they are, which makes a lot of people happy, right? I think that's probably the more important thing, whether it hits 80 or not.
Yeah, and we have a comment that says, even though crude oil is falling, company stocks are holding pretty well today. Usually company stock would be 8% average in this kind of environment. That's really interesting, because I remember last week we were talking about oil company stocks. They just did their earnings reports, and it was like they made a huge amount of money, and they're putting into dividends and share buybacks, and prices were like share price was totally flat. So I wonder if this is kind of like they're just holding. Like, no one's interested. No one wants to trade them. There's just no anything about oil company stocks now.
Yeah, so let me see here. So if you look at ExxonMobil, they're over the week, they're down 31 cents. Over the month, they're down $3.64. And so, they dropped down to 55, but they're trading right now at 57. And a month ago, they were at 60. And look at Chevron, who had a good report as well. They were a month ago trading at they're down $4 a month. They're 104, and so despite good earnings, they're still not back to where they were as well. So,
I think people will be pretty happy to see oil stay in the $65 to like $75 range, but it's just. It's just like, remember when it was climbing and we just got all these calls like, oh, it's going to 80, it's going to 80. And now I'm not just so sure. It really seems like maybe the good Prince Abdulaziz over at OPEC was right when he was cautioning about, he's like, it doesn't, that there are still headwinds, I think is what he kept saying.
Well, I mean, the Delta variant, right, is the elephant in the room, the Delta variant, right? I mean,
what is the Delta variant? Like, what is it?
Why are you?
Is it going to crush demand?
Why are you asking that question? Let's start with that. Why do you need to know?
Yeah,
that's my best.
Well, like, is it a new virus, or is it like? I don't know. I feel like they need to. I would like some clarity. Like, what is it?
But why do you need to know, Ellen? You must have missed the clip?
Yeah.
Oh, so
yeah, I'm not getting it.
the White House press secretary, Jen. Yeah, okay.
I know what you're talking about now.
Why do you need to know?
Why do I need to know?
Why do you need to know? I don't know. You got these weird questions for like you need to know.
Oh God, I can't believe I missed that. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I remember that now. Yeah, why do I need to know? Maybe I don't.
Maybe you don't. You don't.
Maybe I don't. I don't need to
know. So, but
I'm waiting for Zeta variant.
Zeta variant. Well, you do have, whatever you think about COVID or whatever, you do have just all of these confluence of events that are going on, and you have to, react to it. I'm old enough to remember on this podcast when this was in Wuhan, and we're like, it's not really impacting demand, and it wasn't at the time, but that changed.
I would just like to say that like we were one of the first to like start talking about coronavirus and the impact on oil. So
yeah, just real quick, go in the time capsule, because when it kind of hit over here, not hit, but like everything shut down. People were like, "Oh my God, we're gonna." I'm like, "God, I've been like, this is old news. This is like, what are you talking about?" And they're like, "I just heard about it." I'm like, "Really?"
It's like we've been talking about it for months. Like,
this is old hat by now. What are you talking about? We followed it from it's really a non-story, and then to it's okay. It's kind of could impact prices, and this is okay, and then there we go. So, but anyways, as we get into when does winter start? Like middle of October.
In China or here?
No, here.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I would say, like in New England.
No, not winter. I'm sorry. Winter is like December. When does fall start?
Oh, fall is mid-September, September 21st.
Right, and so flu season starts mid-October, early November, something like that.
I think so. I think they generally count it from November, although like I don't know, they're always giving out flu shots year round, so who knows? Yeah, but I think I've gotten flu shots as early as September though.
Okay, this says October, but the peak is December to February. So it starts as October. Anyway, so my point is that you have the Delta variant, you have all this stuff, and then you have winter coming around, which is when we see just an uptick in sickness from these type of diseases. So, what impact on demand that will have, I don't know, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder. I honestly, like, I know, like, there are a lot of people saying, like, there's definitely a rise in Delta cases, whatever it is, in the South, in Florida. We haven't really seen an impact on demand. I think. I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see like what the driving like stats and stuff are in, in Georgia and Florida and Texas especially. But I don't think I think the biggest impact is going to be just school opening, which is happening like this week, where I am, and it's probably soon in Texas. But like, if it's seasonal, then it's coming for the Northeast, right. And the question is like. Florida doesn't overreact like that. What kind of reaction are these northern states going to have when it hits, and is that going to actually affect demand, whereas the demand effect in the South was fairly muted? I think that's a question, and I don't know. Are they like preparing? Did they realize like it's coming for them? Because I don't know, but I do think that I think it's something that you should take into account if you are looking at how coronavirus is impacting oil demand.
Yeah, and then you have United, which is threatening to fire its employees if they don't get vaccinated. You have a lot of that stuff coming as well.
It's going to go great for like customers, for everyone flying these like airlines and be like, and now we fired all these employees because they wouldn't get vaccinated, and that's why your flight's canceled. Well, people are definitely like not gonna.
Yeah, we had protests here in Fort Worth because nurses were protesting not wanting to get the vaccine. It's just ironic that the heroes last year are going to fire this year. So it's just.
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, last week went over numerous ER calls, and they're saying no capex increase in debt improving. Yeah, okay. Is drill baby drill gone? I don't know, but we have an article coming up in our in the lineup that talks about what the majors have planned for the Permian at the very least. So.
Well, and here it is. Actually, it's up next.
Oh, let's do it.
This is from Argus. Oil majors tread cautiously in Permian shale. Exxon and Chevron are ramping up drilling operations in the Permian Basin. of West Texas and New Mexico, with a focus on squeezing out further efficiencies as they keep a tight lid on spending. And I mentioned earlier, I don't think this is in our show, but Scott Sheffield from Pioneer said he only expects a 5% growth increase in the Midland in the Permian, and that he doesn't expect Pioneer to do any major acquisitions anytime soon as well.
Yeah, I mean that's really interesting.
Well, let me just phrase it before you respond. Let me phrase it like this: if ESG wasn't a thing, do you think Drill Baby Drill would be back? Like, how much of this is ESG? How much of this is not paying back your shareholders? How much of this is just COVID fears? If you had to put it like a percentages, what would you?
Yeah. Okay, so I think ESG is definitely a thing, but I really don't think it's as big a thing as people think it is. So I would put it at like 20. I think bigger than ESG is just the Biden administration in general, and the leasing moratorium. I think that is a much bigger factor. So I'd put that at like 30 to 40%, and I'd put like fear of OPEC up there at like 20, maybe. I don't know what we're up to. I wasn't keeping track in my head, but like fear that OPEC will just will just overproduce and kill and bottom out the market. And then I'd put like paying down debt at like 50%, if there's that much left, which I don't think there is. So maybe we'll put that at like 40 or 30.
But you put paying down debt is the major thing.
I think paying down debt is the major thing. Paying down debt and fear of the Biden administration are like the two biggest things.
So I think paying down debt's definitely up there, but I think fear of OPEC's there. I don't know. I just to me, it's,
yeah.
Just knowing that they're meeting, especially the first half of the year, they're meeting so much. And then the other thing is, fear of the uncertainty. I think it was kind of hard to guess what was going to happen with demand return this year. And so if you overestimated, or were super bullish on demand return, and you get into the spot and demand doesn't come back, then you're out there drilling rigs and the prices fall. A lot of these guys hedged. They took a lot of losses on their hedges, so they didn't expect the price to be back to where it was, and yet it is. You're muted.
Sorry, I was muted. I do think that the next Dallas Fed survey will be interesting, because they always do ask the producer, the E&Ps, like what kind of is motivating them. And so I think it'll be interesting to see what they say now, because I know a lot of it before was a lot had to do a lot with fear of regulatory uncertainty and things like that. And also OPEC, I'm curious if any of those answers have changed over the course of the year. You're muted, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm muted. I'm sorry. I was trying to read the comments over here. Marathon paid $1.4 billion so far in 2021. Yeah, that is a lot of money to pay back. So, okay. Let's move on. Let's see here. Utilities mini nuclear reactors as climate change concerns grow. Oh, hey, speaking of climate change and concerns, let me just bring this up real quick here, because we haven't talked about this on this show recently, but someone sent this to me this morning. I meant to send it over to you and I forgot, so apologies. But here it is. Let's see here. This is from Bloomberg real quick. It says, okay, that's what I say it says. It's about, did the person delete the tweet? Oh, there it is. Okay, here it is. From Bloomberg, American oil refineries have never before bought so much crude oil from Russia. Did you see that headline?
I did. In fact, I knew last week when they released the EIA stats that crude oil imports from Russia were up.
Yeah. So anyways, it's just as we talk about climate change and being concerned, we are importing all that oil from Russia.
Buy that Russian oil.
So sorry, that just made me think about that. Okay. Utilities mini nuclear reactors. We talked about that. Are you a believer in these?
I'm totally, yeah. I'm really into SMRs. I think they're like, I think that I think we should also, I think the U.S. should be all in on SMRs. I actually talked to this she's a friend that I knew from something else, but it turns out that she does a lot about SMRs. Maybe she'll come on the podcast and tell us a bit about it, because she told me some really interesting stuff. When I had dinner with her at one point, she was like, "Yeah, do you know that like the military has a bunch of these?" And they work and stuff like that. So I think that there's a lot there. I know that there's a company in Poland, I think, that's working on building them for their chemical industries. I just think that they'd be so useful for especially for industry. So like, say you want to make like steel, or maybe not steel, it's not the best, but like you want to make some product or whatever. Have your own SMR. Or if you're like I don't understand why, these those huge data centers, they should have their own SMR, because it just seems like it I know like everything is based on the grid and this and that, but it gives like it kind of localizes things. And like I just think it takes so long to build a giant nuclear reactor. I just think SMRs are like, I think I think we need nuclear if we really want to decarbonize and maintain our current lifestyle. I wanted to talk about this article I read last week about, I can't remember what it's called, the de-something movement. It's like this movement to basically like cut GDP in order to reduce like climate change. They basically think, I'll look it up. I read this long article about it on Vox, which was way too long, as everything on Vox always is. But yeah, I think that like if we actually do want to cut carbon emissions and maintain or do better in our lifestyles, that nuclear is a way to go, and SMRs, I'm for it.
Okay, so here's, according to the Wall Street Journal, the TerraPower 345 megawatt reactor will cost about $1 billion, with a levelized cost of electricity estimated in the $50 to $60 range per megawatt hour. The same metric for a new combined cycle natural gas plant ranges from 44 to 73 per megawatt hour. So if that's true, and you can lock your price in for the next, are these the 20-year units? I can't remember. The ones I was looking at a few years ago were like 20 years. I don't know what these are. But anyways, if you can lock your price in for 20 years at $55, that's not a bad deal.
Yeah.
Whereas the natural gas is going to, fluctuate.
Yep. Plus, this is lower emission. If you want lower emissions, like I think that we need to. I think we just need to push more for this. If we want to reduce, carbon emissions, then. But I don't know. You're the one that lives next to a nuclear plant, so.
I do. I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me one bit. So, listen, I'm okay with it. Okay. Aramco posts nearly 300% leap in second quarter profit as oil demand recovers. They're saying drill, baby, drill, because money.
Yeah. So, so I was actually on CNBC Asia last night, or their Monday morning, my Sunday night, talking about this, and then I listened to the earnings call today, which was kind of interesting. I'll give you kind of like a little bit of a rundown. I did like a long like Twitter thread on it this morning, but I will kind of give you the highlights. So basically, they posted a massive amount of profit, which is understandable because crude oil's been up. They sell a lot of crude oil, and it was tempered a little bit by the fact that they haven't quite been selling as much crude oil. But what's interesting is they did share a slide about their demand and price forecast, and it seems like they really don't see the prices climbing. They definitely don't see them climbing to the $80 mark, and seem really like they'd say more in the $60, $70 range. They do see, they believe that demand will climb to 99 million barrels per day by the end of this year, and that we'll see 100 million barrels a day by next year. So, so it's kind of interesting.
So we're getting back to 2019 levels by 2022,
which is actually what they've been saying all along. So,
I just reminded folks that despite the doomsday predictions last year that we'd never get back. So So the big thing is, so if you compare, so most of the oil majors were doing dividend hikes and buybacks and things like that.
Aramco is not doing that. They're committing to paying out the dividend that they said they would pay, and that's what they're doing. They've got plenty of free cash flow, so they have been putting more into CapEx. Their CapEx is back up to $35 billion this year, if everything continues. Their CapEx guidance was 40, but it was like way down. It was like 13 last year. So, and they are increasing their MSC to 13 million barrels a day. Okay, let me unpack this just briefly for people, because MSC doesn't mean production. It basically means their maximum production capacity. So it's basically, I think I defined it at some point. It's basically what it means is the amount of oil that they can produce, and they can hold that level for 1 year. So it's set by the hydrocarbon law. So the government says to Aramco, you have to be able to produce this month. It's the average maximum number of barrels per day of crude oil that can be produced for 1 year, giving them 3 months to make operational adjustments. So you get 3 months to get up to that level. So before it was 12 million barrels a day, but there was always like, oh, can Aramco actually produce this much? And we saw in April and May of 2020 that yes, they can. That doesn't mean that it comes without significant cost and potential even damage to fields. So what they're planning to do is to increase so the government has now ordered them to increase MSC to 13. So they're planning to make expansions to 3 offshore fields to do this. But it's like going to take a while. Like they're in the initial engineering stage. So it's going to take at least 2 years. But that doesn't mean Aramco will produce that much. It means that it will have this capacity to produce that much if they need it or it's determined to. I also think it gives them more flexibility in terms of which fields they're relying on. And they have an actual breakdown of where this production comes from by field. It does kind of give them it's like a trump card though, and we know that apparently now they're willing to use it because Abdulaziz did, he played that trump card last April. So, I think it's more of a national security thing than it really is a concern for the market.
So I got to ask this question, or I shouldn't say this. I don't think I was asked the question, but it came up the other day on a podcast. I was on the Energy Newsbeat podcast they had me on, and they brought up the fact, and they said that the Saudis need, I don't know, $150 oil to make sure that their sovereign wealth fund is replenished and this, that, and the other. And I said, if that's true, then why do the Saudis keep trying to keep the price where it's at? Why don't the Saudis let the price, why don't they do everything in the power to let the price go up? And I said, I'm not the expert on this, but I know someone who is. So I'm sure we talked about this on the podcast. I can't remember. Do they really need to be 150 or is that just the outside talking points?
No. Yeah, this is what I hear all the time. There's always oh, the IMF says they need this to break even for their budget. They need this break even point to fund their budget. And yeah, okay, maybe they do need to sell oil at that price to totally fund their budget. But what country? How many countries don't take debt? Saudi Arabia doesn't have a lot of debt, and they have started taking debt, and it's totally fine. They haven't taken that much. So I don't see, there's no reason for Saudi Arabia to feel like it needs to fully fund its budget based on this. First of all, okay, about the PIF. Yeah, if you're just looking at how much the PIF says it wants to invest and how much oil money you need, fine, but it doesn't work like that. The oil money doesn't just flow into the PIF coffers. There's actually a business structure that goes on, and the PIF has gotten a lot of money from Aramco through its sale of SABIC. So they have a lot of other ways of funding the PIF other than just crude oil. And I would say it sounds like it's a great talking point, but it just reflects a not good understanding of how the Aramco is actually a business and they pay dividends and how that works with the PIF. The fact that they purchase SABIC from the PIF, and so they've been paying off that purchase, and so the PIF is getting money that way. So they don't need $150 oil at all.
There we go. Okay, more oil shipped as Dakota Access Pipeline expansion starts. Energy Transfer executive says more oil is being shipped through the Dakota Access Pipeline as the expansion becomes operational. Yay for the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Yeah, I was like, finally, hey, yeah. I mean, finally, they're shipping their oil. And Energy Transfer says that they can now transport 750,000 barrels of oil a day, and they're adding pump stations, and the full expansion should be able to pump 1.1 million barrels a day when it's done. But the Standing Rock Sioux tribe is not happy, basically. It's kind of interesting. I'm wondering how long they'll be able to keep this up before a judge decides that, oh no, they have to stop. But they claim that it's a threat to their health and drinking water supply. And they called on President Joe Biden's administration to shut down the pipeline. But Energy Transfer said the line is safe, and the Army Corps of Engineers? Yeah, Army Corps of Engineers under Biden has allowed the line to continue operating. Also, how come no one's out there like protesting? Where are the big protests this time?
Let me say this.
Is that because there's no Trump? It's not fun to go protest in South Dakota, or what is it, North Dakota? In North Dakota when Trump's not president?
Energy Transfer, listen to me. Listen right here. If this pipeline leaks, so help you, okay? You should have like triple wall concrete pipe, like sealed. Do not let this pipeline leak. If it leaks, so help me, okay? Because they are going to crucify you guys if it leaks. If you let a barrel of oil, a single barrel, leak from this pipeline, you are done. So make sure if we find out, in like 3 years that they've got bad steel because that happens, or some kind of crazy thing, corrosion. Oh my gracious! So let's just hope for Energy Transfer's sake that they have good, solid pipe going through there and it doesn't corrode. Because can you imagine if there was a spill now?
Maybe they should just pay people to like stand there and watch. I know, like they've all sorts of like infrared cameras and stuff, but like can't hurt to have some more eyes on it.
It's funny you say that. There's satellite technology that you can get that uses multi-spectral, hyperspectral. I can't remember the term. But anyways, it can look at the grass through these different. Gosh, I hadn't talked about this stuff so long. Multispectral lenses. And you can look through it. It can tell that the grass is actually dying before you can see the grass dying. And so they can detect leaks by using that. And the problem is a lot of companies don't want to pay for it. Energy Transfer, pay for it. Okay, like right here for this strip, pay for it, because if you get busted with a leaky pipeline, you're done. Like they're going to be done. I say done. You know what I'm saying? Like they will. Oh my gracious. So yeah, one point. What did you say it was 1.1 million barrels?
Yeah, that's what they want to go up to. That's what the plan is.
How much money have they lost on this project, you think?
A lot, but not as much as TransCanada. A lot, but less than TransCanada.
It's crazy.
That way.
It's crazy. So
more or less than Colonial lost with the hackers.
I still don't know about that story.
That's true.
That's weird.
Very good point.
Okay. All right. Here we go. 2 more stories. Let's see here. Infrastructure bill has big wins for oil. Climate advocates say. Well, of course, the climate advocates hate. I mean,
yeah. Who knew big oil is infrastructure?
Hey, you know who else big oil won with over the weekend? The Obama birthday party. Okay. So
yeah, Kerry flew in on his private jet.
No. Ellen, let me help you out here. He flew to his home, which is in the area. Took a ferry to the party. Completely different. It's completely different.
You're right. I stand corrected.
Thank you. He flew to his home in the area. He took a ferry, so he didn't fly to the Obama party. That's like why you would think that.
He could have always taken like a sailboat and like cut his carbon. Did he buy carbon offsets? Because he claimed initially when people were criticizing him over the jet that he always buys carbon offsets. Do you think he bought carbon offsets for that trip? Do you think that they like came in the invitation? They were like, buy your carbon offsets here, here, and here.
Like an Oprah deal, you get a carbon offset, you get a carbon offset. Like, yes, that's probably what happened.
Or did the Obama family take care of the carbon offsets for everyone? Is that like a thing? Like show your vaccine, registration and your carbon offset,
I think
purchases
yeah,
to get in the door?
I think being in the presence of the Obamas is a carbon offset. Like they're
Oh.
like that's how that works there. I just yeah, but that's what the State Department or whoever the Czar Department, whatever, released the thing and literally said that he did not fly up there for the party. He flew to his house and then took the ferry to the party. So it's not the same. It's completely different.
That doesn't make it any better.
Well, I mean, okay, to be clear, he flew up there to go to the party, but he
Yeah.
didn't fly to the party. He stopped by his house for like an hour or two or for
Yeah.
the night. It's like, guys, come on.
But he did wear a mask when exiting the plane.
Oh, thank
So,
goodness. I was
yeah.
really, I was
I
really
know.
worried about that. I'm glad you got it.
Anyway, what is in the infrastructure bill for big oil? So let's see. The proposed legislation has more than $10 billion for carbon capture, transport, and storage, something I'm not entirely convinced is feasible. I mean, like they've been trying to do this since like the Bush administration. A suite of technologies fossil fuel companies hope will allow them to extend their license to operate for years, if not decades. Wait a minute. So they're like, if this carbon capture stuff doesn't work out, they're going to like revoke their license to operate. There's also 800. There's also 8 billion for hydrogen with no stipulation that the energy used to produce it comes from clean sources. It could be red or black hydrogen, not green or blue. Someone on the Aramco call today was like, asked a question about like, they were like a green or blue or any color hydrogen. I like that.
That's funny.
Multicolored hydrogen. And a new liquid and natural gas plant in Alaska won billions in loan guarantees, while other waivers in the bill weaken environmental reviews on new construction projects, experts say. Uh-oh. So are you telling me that the infrastructure bill is like a little bit actually about infrastructure?
Well, that's my question. Like, how do you expect to build infrastructure and not, I don't know.
Okay, let's compare this. Okay, here's the numbers. So it says in this they got 10 billion for carbon capture, which is apparently an oil company thing.
Oh yeah, sure.
They got 8 billion for hydrogen, which is also apparently a big oil win. And some LNG plant Alaska got billions, doesn't say how much. Okay, here's what the climate change priority people got. 7.5 billion for a network of electric vehicle chargers. 21.5 billion to create an Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations.
What?
WTF? I'm sorry. Like,
hold on. Is that like to encourage protesters to go protest on the Dakota Access? Is that
is it, or is it like, are they gonna like do like demonstrations of like how clean energy works? Oh my god. Where? Okay. All I can say is at least they're just planning to print this stuff and it's not my tax dollars. $16 billion for energy efficiency and renewable energy. I think that the renewable people came out on top. Personally, yeah. I'd be pissed. Like, what in the world is an Office of Clean Energy Demonstration? I'd be like, build some windmills with that instead or whatever. But, anyway. Was this a big win for big oil? They haven't passed it yet, have they?
They haven't passed it yet, so who knows what's actually going to be in it when they pass it.
Yeah. The Office of Clean Energy Demonstration is going to end up with like 40 billion.
How do we get some of that money?
Can we be a demonstrator?
Yeah.
I can demonstrate things. I'm very good at it. See, I could be like Vanna White.
I don't. Yes.
We could feature a new clean energy demonstration on our podcast every week.
Be happy to. Would be happy
to.
Would be.
Give me like, $1 million of that billion. That 21 billion.
Just give us 10%.
Yeah.
We'll do it for the next 10 years. 1% a year. There we go.
Yeah.
Paid in advance, obviously.
Obviously.
Dr. Wald, we're losing our mind.
I know.
We're losing our mind.
Yeah. This is what the country is.
And this is
I'm like, it's like, I'm not like against funding clean energy, but like more administrators. Are they gonna like stick them on bicycles and make them pedal to like power something? Like, I don't know, put it towards something, whatever. Anyway.
Okay. So you want to talk about crypto? You depressed me. So, let's see here. This is no way to make policy. Cryptocurrency advocate express frustration with bipartisan infrastructure language. Let me just be clear. The biggest myth in DC is that bipartisanship is a good thing. Okay, so that's I can't stand that. But yeah, I saw Ted Cruz was railing on this last night, and it's like, oh gosh, they're coming for the cryptos.
Oh yeah, but we knew this was going to happen. Come on, it's been like I mean, Jenny Ellen said in like her testimony when they were going to confirm her that she was like, "I am coming for you, cryptocurrency."
No, no, it's not a surprise. It's just, I guess, some of the crypto space, I'm not sure that it's kind of like they've expected it, but then they kind of complain that's happening. It's like, well, this is, like this is you. Listen, I am pro crypto. I don't have a problem with crypto one way or another. But the crypto by nature brings the fight to the U.S. dollar. Like that's what it's doing. It's actually challenging the U.S. dollar, whether you think it's a viable threat or not. So the people in charge of the dollar have to respond, or I guess they don't have to. They're likely to respond, and so it's not surprising.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm not surprised that people are pissed about it. I'm not surprised that they're going off, that they're going after it. Let's see, more federal regulation on cryptocurrencies dramatically expand the number of cryptocurrency users who have to report filings to the IRS, which is exactly where I said that they were going to, get people, because like you just say IRS and people like want to run for the hills because it's so damn scary. Like, I don't know. Every time I get a letter from the IRS, my heart skips a beat, even if it's just like, we've received your tax return or here is your refund. I'm still so yeah, imagine if you're like paying for, so yeah, like, wasn't there like an NFL player recently who was like, I'm going to be paid in cryptocurrency. Wait till he starts having to like report that to the IRS.
Yeah, and I mean, can we just talk about that story for half a second? Yeah, I can't remember. Okay, there may be a more recent one, but there was one who's getting paid in crypto, Bitcoin, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, look at this guy!" It's like, well, I mean, unless he's going to function in Bitcoin exclusively, like he's got to convert it back to dollar. Like it's not really.
He can pay for stuff on like Booking.com with it.
Yeah, the utility is just not there. And just to be clear, he was getting paid in Bitcoin when Bitcoin was like, what, 50, 60,000 or whatever. So it's like, I'm not sure that was really the, if you get out of it now, then you've taken the bath. So anyways, I mean, his contract was still in dollars. He's getting converted to Bitcoin. I don't know.
Yeah. Did you know that there is a think tank just for cryptocurrency policy? It's called Coin Center. What a great name. Of course, there's a think tank for it. Okay. Have you seen the television series Startup?
No.
Okay. You probably like it. It's on Netflix now. It was on some random TV channel that I never heard of. It also stars Adam Brody from the OC. Anyway, it's basically about these like people in South Florida who are trying to like do this like startup cryptocurrency thing, and all of their connections with the like mob and various different mobs and various illegal things and drugs and all this stuff. I watched all 3 seasons. It's kind of violent. So like what is it? What did they say? Trigger warning, like violence. Like it was like way more violent, like grossly violent than I was expecting. But it was very interesting, and like it was like it dealt with this some of the like moral issues of like, okay, if you're operating some sort of like dark web where people use crypto to like buy and sell drugs and all sorts of things, do you have some sort of like moral obligation if you think there's going to be like a terrorist attack to like warn the authorities, or does that compromise your is your ultimate moral allegiance to just to confidentiality and things like that. So kind of interesting, but like I feel like the like Fed must have been watching that, or like Jenny Yellen must have been watching that show when she was like trying to.
That's her favorite show.
Yeah,
no, I tell you what, I watched Blood Red Sky over the weekend.
Ooh.
It's got some violence, to put it mildly. It's got some violence. But actually, for those types of movies, it was one of the better types. So if you've been seeing the previews for that type of movie, it was one of the better ones. I'm not a big fan of that genre, but for that type of movie, it was pretty good. And I do want to ask you something. Have you seen the show you mentioned Netflix, Outer Banks?
I haven't, but I'm like kind of intrigued. So
Okay, because I see people talking about it, and I can't tell because it looks like a surfer show. And I'm like, am I being trolled? Is this serious? Like, is
I
this
don't know. It
really
does
good
look
to
like a
watch?
surfer show.
So I didn't know. I wanted to ask someone who's I can actually trust if they've seen it, if it's good or not, because it feels like I'm getting trapped on that one. So I haven't started either. But
Yeah, I haven't watched that. I still have to finish Lupin, which is what what we were most recently watching on Netflix. Which
Lupin?
Lupin, it's in French,
Okay,
but obviously I watched with subtitles. And it's about this like gentleman thief.
okay,
I
I see.
like thief spy thing. So
Okay,
yeah, it was good. I thought it was the first like 5 episodes were good. Yeah. So now that we've turned this into a like, what are you watching on Netflix
Netflix.
recommendation
We'll wrap it up with that. Where will you
podcast?
be this week, Dr. Wall?
This week, oh, so just
Oh,
to
Ted Lasso. I
Ted
have.
Lasso. That's on Apple Plus, right? I think I
Um,
have Apple Plus for the year, so I just finished Physical on Apple Plus, which I thought was really, really well done. But I really don't like this whole like one episode a week thing. Like, come on, that's
yeah,
so
turn
like
them out.
network TV.
Turn them out. Let's go. I'm with you.
Yeah, I want to binge.
Big Oren keeps telling me to watch Ted Lasso. So,
All right, maybe one of us will have to do it.
all right. Anyway, where you
Okay, where will I be? Okay, so just a heads up, I was on Bloomberg last week, although it also got picked up in the Pittsburgh Gazette or something like that. So my op-ed on why I think the Biden administration should basically cut back on, or should basically like rescind the Trump era tariffs on certain types of steel and aluminum and other products that are produced using much lower carbon intensive processes than those in China, in order to facilitate trade and clean building for this infrastructure monstrosity. So check that out. And I will be on investing.com this week.
Okay. Inside the War Room, I have on New York Times bestselling author Charles Soule coming on this week. And so I've got him, former boxer Ed Lattimore. And then if you are, for our international folks, if you're curious about what's going on between the French-speaking Cameroons and the English-speaking Cameroons and the what they call a genocide down there, the Southern Cameroons, I have on a guest talking about that. I've been wanting to bring that on for some time. It is I will warn you, if you type in the hashtag Southern Cameroon or Cameroons on Twitter, you can find some pictures. They're pretty graphic, but it's a story that doesn't get a lot of coverage. So I will be on Inside the War Room chatting about all of those things. And with that, Dr. Wald, we'll be back next week.
See ya.